Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Sayn's World. In case if you're not sure who I am yet, my name is Justin Sayn, your host of Sayn's World, also the guitar player from the band Cruella. If you want more information on the band, check out some links I put in the description of this video. It's loud, it's heavy, it's fast, it's badass. Be greatly appreciated if you check us out. Today's episode is the 2-year anniversary of when the family lost Uncle Larry. If you haven't guessed by the title who I'm talking about, it is Larry Flynt. The now former publisher of Huster magazine, among actually many other magazines that some went under the radar. Some became bestsellers in the country and the world. So we're going to get to that. Today is definitely not going to be one of those somber episodes. It's, oh my God, I can't believe he left us so soon. He had so much more to give. Believe me, Uncle Larry, he lived the life of 1,000 men. And so I'm going to take you a little bit behind the scenes, a little bit. Going to take you guys on the road here very shortly, and it's gonna be a pretty cool episode. Going to take you behind the scenes, basically, what I saw as just a real small kid, just a tiny kid. What I saw, basically their life here in Columbus, some of the trouble that Larry got himself into, and how they moved out west, and basically just what I saw growing up and in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and just some things that I saw. So if you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and for sure hit that notification bell. That way you're notified anytime I upload any new videos for you guys, the hard rock and heavy metal fans. Again, this episode is much different, but Larry loved rock and roll. He loved music, and there's just some things that about Uncle Larry that people just didn't quite know about. Either they've gotten the wrong impression about him through media, of course, through the movie, which I'll get into that later. But all right, I'm going to take you guys on the road. While I'm driving, I am going to show you where you're basically going to hear an audio clip. This was an interview with the late, great Frank Zappa. And this was back in, I believe, April of '87. So this is a couple months before Althea passed away. But this will give you a little bit of an idea of how Larry worked, and just how he thought of things, and just what a brilliant person he was. And it's interesting to hear somebody's an outside point of view that wasn't necessarily close to him, but yet knew him. So I'm going to be hitting the road here in a couple seconds, but enjoy this audio clip, and we'll be right back. I'm going to take you guys on the road, some landmarks here in Columbus, Ohio that you probably didn't even know existed. So hang out.
Okay. And a couple years ago, I would go over to the Flynt Mansion in Bel Air to cover Larry Flynt's various news conferences and events. From my standpoint, on the outside looking in, it was quite a circus. And you had an even better vantage point because you'd go over there, you worked for Flynt for a little while. And what was it like? Describe for me what it was like in the Flynt house at that point.
Well, first of all, I did not work for him. He hired me to do a celebrity fantasy shoot for Hustler magazine. He had sent out letters to a bunch of people in the movie business and the music business, and offered them the opportunity to stage any kind of a pictorial session that they wanted. And Dennis Hopper did one. I forget who the other ones were, but a lot of people did them. And that's how I met him, but I was not ever an employee of Larry Flynt.
You were a guest occasionally at the Flynt house.
That's correct.
Tell me what it was like there.
Which day, which time? I mean, there's a difference between going over to visit Larry when there's not a circus going on and going over to visit Larry when he's running for president. That's two different situations.
At the time, during the time when he was running for president and so forth, what was it like?
He had, I would call it a vast entourage of different types of people from every walk of life sort of stewing in the living room at this place. It was, I don't know whether you're going to show the audience any footage of what the house looks like, but it was a pretty fantastic setup. So you can imagine this beautiful house with armed guards, with guards that had machine guns, knives, and pistols on them, completely guarding this house, inside and out. And in the living room, you'd have some evangelist in a brown suit who was there to recite biblical passages to Larry at his whim, 2 or 3 nutritionists, people dealing in pond scum, you know, that green oozing stuff that came out of a little plastic bottle that Larry used to eat. And at one point, I understand, put a notice to all the employees of Hustler that they must eat this stuff or be fired. He was, you know, an unusual guy. And just all kinds of people, American Indian activist guys, Timothy Leary, you name it. Guys who obviously were like CIA types, you know, just, it was weird. It was a strange mishmash of all different character types just there in this one location. It was kind of like the United Nations of absurdity.
Yeah. And at the same time, he would say a lot of really, what certainly to us were outlandish things, conspiracy theories and all kinds of things. What sort of things did you hear?
I remember coming in one day and Larry said, "Frank, come here, listen, Marilyn Monroe is alive. She is alive, she's living in Canada. She's a waitress there now. I'm going up, flying up, I'm going to get pictures. I'm going to get the story."
Was he kidding? Was he serious?
I don't know. You don't know. Marilyn, if you're up there, hey, how you doing?
I guess that begs the question then, which you look at Larry Flynt and all the things he did, screaming at the Supreme Court, wearing the flag as a diaper and getting arrested and doing the DeLorean stunts and all of that. Whatever Larry Flynt may be now, was he crazy back then?
Well, it depends on what you call crazy. He was, let's call him a unique and colorful character who had a severe physical disability. And I like him as a person, no matter what you might think of what he does for a living or some of the reputation that he's developed over the years. As a person, he's a nice guy. And not stupid. Not stupid at all. He's a very clever man. And put yourself in his position for a moment. Suppose you had been shot and paralyzed by somebody because of a cartoon you ran in a magazine, which is basically what that whole incident was over. And prior to the time of being shot, you'd been a sexually active playboy kind of a guy. And now you can't do it anymore, and you're stuck in a chair. You have to figure out something for yourself to do to keep your mind occupied. I mean, you got to think of something. And some of the things that he thought of were right on out there.
So what you're saying is you speculate that he was doing a lot of this for his own amusement.
Well, I would say that basically for his own amusement, but also to amuse those other people who might comprehend what the gag was.
Did you?
Sometimes, you know, I was over there maybe 6 or 7 times. I wasn't a regular Larry Flynt customer. But some of the things that I saw and some of the phone calls that I got from Larry, I would definitely say qualify as science fiction.
Frank, you made a point before the interview started that's, I think, an interesting one. If you could get past all the absurdity, all the craziness, there was some real stuff there, despite all...
I'm sure there still is some real stuff there.
I mean, at the core, Larry Flynt was not a complete
Buffoon.
Buffoon.
Yeah. He's a constitutional fundamentalist. He really is, as far as I can tell, has a heartfelt concern and interest in upholding the basic law of this country. Right down the line. You know, I find that admirable in anybody who cares enough about a broader picture to even remember that there is such a thing as a Constitution. And he's right. I mean, he's hooked on it. He's totally into it. As a human being, the guy's got a lot of good qualities. You know, I liked him. I won't say that I am an intimate friend of Larry Flynt, but what I know of him from the time that I saw him during that weird period when he was running for president and stuff, he's a real guy, and he deserves much more respect than he has gotten. And that's why I'm doing this, because I like him.
Do you feel sorry for him now?
Yeah, I feel sorry for him, and I also feel a little bit angry because of the condition that he's in now, as far as I can tell, and from what he's told me, is not of his own doing. This has been inflicted on him by fanatics. First of all, the gunshot wound that put him in the chair. The guy who did that to him, Larry claims it's part of a conspiracy theory and that he was a hired guy and that it was a hit. And you can talk to him about who bought the hit and the rest of the intrigue surrounding that.
Alrighty, everybody, we are here near downtown Columbus, and I'm not exactly parked illegally, so I'm going to make this as fast as I can. We are on, if you can see the sign here, we're on West Gay Street. This building right here is part one of our story. It is a medical aesthetics and spa services building. Back in spring of 2014, it was made known that a physician had bought this building, and it made news because of one of its former owners. So this building, again, here's a shot of downtown. So it's on the corner of Wall Street and Gay Street. This building was once the Huster Club of Columbus. This was early 70s, and it was closed down because Larry and Althea wanted to focus on the magazine. So this was basically Hustler headquarters, downtown Columbus. Now, it's very important for me to mention this because the movie, The People vs. Larry Flynt, got this wrong. But this is the way that filmmaking is done. Basically, they substituted Columbus for Cincinnati. If you watch the movie, in the early years, everything was about Cincinnati, which, the court drama, that was true. There was a prosecutor in Cincinnati. His name is Simon Lease. For whatever reason, he decided to pick on Larry and Hustler magazine, despite the numerous publications that were out at the time. But anyways, that's a different story for a different time. Or if you want, you can watch the movie. So in the mid-70s, this was Hustler headquarters. The address is 40 West Gay Street. This is it. I was never at this building because I was pretty much a baby. I will say this, that a lot went on in this building. If you think of some of the craziness that was going on with the magazine and with Larry and Althea at the time, this was they basically had photo shoots here. This was where the business was. They had pretty much everything was here. Probably the most important thing that actually happened here was when Larry was here. He got the phone call from a anonymous photographer that had gotten pictures of Jackie O. Yes, JFK's wife. She was sunbathing at a beach somewhere, and this photographer had gotten pictures of it, called up Larry and said, "Hey, I got pictures." And that basically that issue made them millionaires. I will tell you this because I actually had a couple emails and a couple questions regarding the move. Ohio did not force them out, but Columbus was cordial in a way. Cincinnati was a complete nightmare. So two things happened. Obviously in 78, that's when Larry was shot, and because of security issues and lifestyle things, and obviously California being more lenient towards the kind of business that they were in, they weren't forced to move, but it was best for the business to move out west. And changed their life, definitely changed my life. And yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. But yeah, in the early to mid 70s until 78 when they sold this, this was both the Hustler Club, Columbus, and Hustler headquarters, downtown Columbus. This is it. All right, so we got another spot we're going to hit up. That because of this business, they were actually able to afford things. So we're going to go check out another spot. Hang out. So let me tell you a little about Uncle Larry's early years. This is when he was young and growing up. Basically, he was born in Magoffin County, Kentucky, and he was born into poverty. He had nothing. So he learned to hustle by making moonshine and selling it to the locals, which is pretty interesting. Moonshine is, wow, it's good stuff, which comes into play later with the band, but yeah, that's another story for another time. So one of Larry's first jobs, he actually got into the bar business. And the bar business turned into he would own strip clubs, which of course was the Huster Club, and obviously to promote the girls in the club, he came up with a newsletter, and that's when the newsletter turned into the full-fledged magazine. An interesting story of basically when Larry and Althea met. Althea, of course, was a very young dancer at one of his clubs, and one of the people that worked for Larry found out that Althea was underage and fired her. But Larry being Larry, he knew Althea's story and said, you know what, I'm going to take her back. So so the next day, Larry and this person, which I know who it was, but I'm not going to mention his name, he has since passed away, and God rest him. He was awesome. I got to meet him, and he was good. But Larry told this person who was managing one of the clubs that he was like, you know what, you're gonna get mad at me, but I'm hiring Althea back. She needs a break. I'm gonna look after her, and it's good. So again, Larry, he just he knew greatness, when he saw it, and obviously I thank Larry for hiring Althea back. So that was definitely a good move. So his instincts were correct. Yes. The trouble that Larry got into in the early days was actually from the city of Cincinnati. At the time, it may still be this, but I'm not sure. I haven't been there in years. But Cincinnati at the time was very, very conservative, and they really didn't want to put up with a lot of Larry's stuff. In particular, this guy Simon Lease, who was a prosecutor, and he really went to work on Larry. It was not a very good scene. So I did mention that Larry and Althea were not forced out of Columbus. They left on their own, understanding that they needed to get into a different environment. Ohio as a whole is pretty conservative. We're understanding to a point, but obviously there's a huge difference between the culture of Ohio and the culture of California. So it's completely different. There's things that are allowed and more welcome in California. So that's basically why the move was made throughout there. All right, so now I'm going to take you on the second part of the trip. We're going from downtown Columbus to a suburb of Columbus. This is where they lived. I believe they lived at this house, from say basically the early 70s until 1978 when they moved out to California. Again, I haven't seen this house in decades, so this is going to be a trip. So while I'm taking this drive, I'm going to play you a video. This is an interesting one that I found. This is actually kind of one of my favorite Larry stories. This is pretty far out there. So when they were making the movie, of course, Woody Harrelson played Uncle Larry. It was absolutely brilliant. I was really proud of him, and I hopefully one of these days I'll be able to meet Woody Harrelson and tell him what a great job that I thought he did. But I'm going to play you just a quick thing that I found on YouTube. It's basically an exchange between Woody and Larry, just talking about basically when movies are made about actors or about public figures or whatever. You get to travel with them. You get to actually know the people, which is good. Courtney Love, obviously did not get to hang out with Althea, did not get to hang with her, so she didn't really know him. But Woody got to hang out with Larry and really got to know him, and they made a road trip to Vegas. And this is what happened. So check this out. When we come back, we're going to be at their house that they lived at in the mid-'70s. It's a pretty trip. Hang out.
I won $1 million in Vegas 2 weeks ago. Really? Playing blackjack. And I was still on a roll and I quit.
You did? That's showing some kind of restraint.
Yeah.
I saw you one time, you were up like $2 million, and it was after the bite. Tyson bit Holyfield.
Right, yeah.
And so then I come and I find you at this, I forget which one it was.
I'm a Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace, that's what it was, yeah. And I go, and he's in this roped off section, that's playing blackjack. We've got 3 hands, that's it. And each one he's betting $15,000 on each hand. So the dealer gets a 21, that's $45,000 down the drain, just like that. But anyway, watching, I come up and I say, so, how you doing? And he goes, I'm up $1.5 million. And I was like, well, fuck, let's get out of here. Just go, just cash out. He goes, I gotta get to 3. I was like, oh no. Come back next morning. Spent all night he played. He's sitting there. He hadn't gone to sleep. Where you at? Down $2.5 million. Like, no.
Well, I manage my money differently. I don't do that anymore.
Really?
If I lose $500,000, I quit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You don't keep chasing it.
No.
That's most people's problem. They keep chasing.
Yeah, and you can't do that if you set that long enough. That's where the casino gets you.
Alrighty, everybody, I am back. All right, so we are on our way to a house. Now, I haven't seen this house in a long time, and I've actually been to this house. So I'll tell you a few things. Wow. So there, where do I get this? So the address, the street address to the Huster headquarters was a brunt of all, of a few jokes. And the house that they lived in here in Columbus, which I'm going to keep this kind of under wraps. If you're curious, you can find the street name, but as far as the address itself, the house number, I'm going to keep this to myself. But it was under some local scrutiny because, and I don't really want to show this just because of privacy. You can find this. You can find this online, but it was directly across the street from the Columbus School for Girls. So obviously, that is going to become the brunt of all jokes, as well. It definitely made news when Larry and Althea bought this house because, coincidentally, it was just happened to be located right next door. That's all you get. So behind these bushes is their house. So I'm going to. I can tell you that it is owned by a developer, and what this person's going to do with it, if anything, that I'm not sure of. But again, I haven't seen this I've seen it, but I haven't actually been here in decades. I was here several occasions. Larry and Althea's wedding reception was actually here, and they had a huge party. From what I remember, I believe it was in the backyard. They had a pool in the back. and I can't remember who, but a few of us decided to throw Larry into the pool and got, with his tuxedo still on, and he was, I mean, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, he got a little messy, but yeah, it was all in good fun. So yeah, I'm going to show you this house because it was badass. Something else that did happen, and my mom loves to tell the story. The girls were upstairs, just hanging out, and the boys were downstairs. There was a basement. In the basement, Larry had a kind of a makeshift thing where it looked like just a bunch of junk had been thrown in, just like a bunch of like a couple bales of hay. He had like a wheel wagon. It basically just looked like a rundown farm, and Larry did that on purpose because he did not want to forget where he had come from. Larry was raised pretty much in the middle of nowhere in Montgomery County, Kentucky, and he used to say that it was so deep in the holler that you had to pipe in sunshine, and had to scrape off owl shit off the clock so you can tell what time it was. Larry had a really good sense of humor. He was really funny, but he was extremely bright, extremely smart. And that's something that that people just didn't get. They just thought he was a pervert, sex maniac, just all the cliches you can imagine, from the business that he was in. But extremely bright, funny, witty. One thing that I appreciated was he loved music. He would make music references, not really specifically about any artists or bands or anything. He would just make music references every once in a while, just like, it's music in my ears, things like that. Just really cool. So something else that did happen, so I kind of got sidetracked. So the girls were upstairs, my mom and sisters were upstairs, and the boys were downstairs in the basement, and mom went downstairs to do something, go in the kitchen or something like that, and she got spotted by one of the guard dogs, and they were guard dogs. They mean, and so anyways, mom decided to try to run away from one of them and tried to close herself in one of the rooms, but this guard dog snuck in right behind her and bit her in the bit her in the ass. But luckily the dog didn't hold on to her and injure her any worse. But I just said it's a story that the family loved to tell. That she was bit in the ass by one of the guard dogs. But anyways, so I'm gonna show you one of this house. I'm gonna try to turn this thing around. Give me just a second. See if we can do this. Zoom in here. So again, privacy. I don't want to catch any of that. But here is the house that Larry and Althea had. This is it. Records show I think they paid $350,000, $375,000 for it. Yeah, it's just massive. Again, the wedding reception was at this house. It was in the backyard. I don't really remember any specifics about the house as far as inside. I do have some pictures I'm going to throw up here and show you guys. Just a beautiful house. Massive, as you can tell. Just unbelievable. Again, this is private property, so I don't want to creep up here that much. But they got a gazebo or something. I'm not sure what that is on the right. Maybe that might be the pool. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was in the back. And yeah, this is it. My daughter was actually here several years ago. As you know, she is a budding photographer, and she was out with my stepdad, just taking pictures of the city. And my stepdad took her here and said, "Hey, you might want to grab a picture or two of this house." Again, told her, later, at the time, what this house was. I'm going to turn back around. This is Fantastic. Okay, I'm back. So I'm going to turn this thing around. Wow. That is, yeah. It's about as big as I remember it. Again, I don't remember anything specifically about the house as far as how it was decorated. I mean, it was nice. But as far as any, like, details, I couldn't tell you. They moved out in '78, and that's when they moved out to California. A few things about the move in California. They some interesting facts. So when they moved out there, they were doing some oh yeah, something else about this house. Larry had tennis courts in the back or in the side, and Larry actually had the tennis courts torn out. And because my dad was an avid tennis player, that upset my dad. He was like, "Larry, what'd you do taking the tennis courts out?" He was like, "I don't play, so don't need them." So he wanted to make room for something else. So yeah, my dad was, in a jokingly way, he was upset that Larry had done that. But anyways, so when they moved out to California, they had some work done, renovations done. Because Larry had gotten shot. He needed things to be wheelchair accessible. They did some upgrades to the house and whatnot, and so they rented a house for a while in Copa del Oro. Beautiful house. I have a couple pictures I'm going to put up here so you guys can see. This is of the courtyard. Beautiful house. I don't really remember anything specific. I don't think they were there for very long. But then they moved into the mansion in Bel Air. And that mansion, I was there a lot, and I have a lot of good memories of that house. So, yeah, there's some people driving around here. I don't want to be creeping around. But, so yeah, that mansion in Bel Air, it was way back in like the 50s or 60s or something like that. It was owned by Larry Flynt, the actor. And then in the early 70s, it was owned for a little bit by Sonny and Cher. I think they moved out like in the early 70s, like 72, 73. So Larry didn't actually buy it from them, but they were former residents. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that they had. I was walking around, I was like, holy crap, Sonny and Cher actually lived here. Kind of Sonny lived in one part, Cher lived in the other half, and they were kind of made things work. At that time, there was just some things going on with their marriage that, it was just, But, all right, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed that. It was definitely a trip for me. It just, it definitely brought back a lot of memories. One of the questions that I'm often asked were what were my first impressions of Larry when I met him. There's quite a few things that come to mind. First of all, how big he was. Just kind of tall, and just of course I was a very puny kid. My mom at the time, she was very athletic. She was a dancer. She loved she was just very physically active. My dad was again the same. He was slender build, very athletic. Very active, and so I grew up kind of on the skinny side. So you got to see a very tall, just a big dude, and me next to him, and as you can see, from this picture, that he just basically just made me look very, very small. That was one of my first impressions, and he just had a really cool job. Just made a magazine that I didn't really understand the full scope until some years later, when Larry started getting arrested and having to go to jail and all this crazy stuff. Really, I was able to understand all the crazy stuff that was going on. One of the very favorite stories that my family likes to tell, and in particular my cousin Joby. My cousin Joby's 4 years older than me. He is my mom's sister's son. He gave me basically a copy of Huster magazine, and I just started thumbing through it, and I took it to the bathroom. But just keep in mind, I was very young. This was like 1975, so basically the magazine was like basically a year in. And I took it to the bathroom. All of a sudden, he's like, "Justin, what are you doing?" And all of a sudden, he hears the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I basically start counting by twos. You can, guess what I'm counting. And as my cousin Joby likes to say, I ended up with an odd number. Go figure. But yeah. So basically, thank you, Uncle Larry. You basically beat the Unified School District in teaching me how to count. That was pretty rad. So yeah, it's another story about the the house in the suburb was, of course, that was where the wedding reception was at. I couldn't tell you if there was a lot of people there. I couldn't tell you a lot of what went on there, but I do remember we actually threw Uncle Larry in the pool, which I should that I'm going to show you the picture of this. I mean, it was kind of just very, very fun thing to do. He enjoyed it, and as you can see, he had a good laugh out of it. So, yeah, just a lot of good times. Again, the house was not that crazy. The craziness went on elsewhere. The house was pretty much just where they lived, and yeah, a lot of the craziness happened either at the office or out and about in Columbus. So. So in 1978, shortly after Larry was unfortunately shot, they decided to move out to California. And I believe I took my first trip out there, I believe it was like around 1980. And don't really remember much about that except the next year when I went out. This is 1981. This was the year that my Aunt Althea had all the guitars basically waiting for me out there. It just completely changed my life. But it was more, I want to keep this about Larry, just, for what he did, basically taking, the ragamuffins, members of the family and flying them out to California and basically just seeing what was pretty much a completely different part of the world, almost. It was just, sunny and 70 and, 70 or 80s, pretty much, 330 days out of the year. It's just, just beautiful. All the palm trees and everything, we got to see the beach and everything. It's just completely different, and I didn't want to go home, and I pretty much made that known. So, but my mom would, fly out with me. She would basically have to, she could only stay for about a week or two, and she had to come back for work. I would stay out there for like, months at a time until I literally had to get back to go to school. All right. So after the 81 trip, the next trip that really stands out in my mind, and this was when basically things started to turn, definitely for the better, was 1984. And the reason why this was kind of an important year was this is the first time, again, Larry and Althea, flew my mom and I out. And this was the year, this was the summer basically that I was able to venture into the Sunset Boulevard, the Sunset Strip scene, and kind of witness this, as, again, I'm 14 years old, and this is just a completely different world. This is stuff that I was, kind of reading in the magazines about this, this rock scene that, Quiet Riot, the Motley Crues, the Dawkins, the Rats, all these bands that I liked as a teenager. This is where they came from. Of course, by this time, they're all gone, and the new wave, we're starting to make their scenes. Sorry, my cat wants out. Hold on a second. Okay, so I let my cat out. Just cats, So anyways, yeah, 1984, basically, this is where all these bands that I liked at this time, this is where they were from. And so you had, even like Striper, and just, the list goes on and on, just of all the bands that came out of the scene. Just through year after year after year, and it's just it's astonishing. For Larry to do this, it meant the world. It changed my life, of course, and it's just I've thanked him over and over again. Just thank you for just flying me out here and letting me see this. Just completely, it was just fucking crazy. It seemed like each trip after that just got to be more insane. The older I got, the more I was able to see, the more I was able to take in, the more I was able to understand exactly what was going on. At this time, Larry had been in jail several times, he was in court nonstop. And unfortunately, this is also the time where Larry he wasn't absent, but I just didn't really see him as often. But I do remember in the '84 trip, I was actually able to go to the office with him, and that was awesome. Just able to walk around and just meet different types of people. And I do specifically remember one of my favorite cartoon guys for Hustler, Dwayne Tinsley. He was there, got to meet him. He was married at the time. He had his wife Susan. She was there. She was super nice. They were just normal people, but they just happened to have just a very odd, very odd sense of humor about things, and but that's why they worked for Larry. Just Larry was so pushing boundaries and pushing as basically past what the law would mostly allow. It was okay. The laws, this is the law. Where we're going to push past that. Just boundaries and obstacles just didn't faze him. He's like, well, this is what I'm going to do, and if you don't like it, don't read it. And that was his huge thing. If you don't like Hustler magazine, don't read it. He was against judgment, against prejudice. He was very open-minded, very smart, very creative, very witty, just really funny, and just had a great sense of humor. Just really cool to talk to. Just some of the things he would say, and this is something I would a lot of people say, especially his lawyers. This is also another thing about the movie that was kind of incorrect. Larry had a lot of lawyers, and for just to again make the story simpler, they took all the lawyers and put them into one. Alan was one of his lawyers, but like I said, he had several, and so yeah, it's just he was always in trouble, but he liked it that way. He just I don't know, just like to push things, and that's something that I always have admired. Just one of my favorite things to say was Larry, what are you doing? And again, his lawyers would say that a lot. Larry, what are you doing? It's like, this is the way this it's what he believed in. And it wasn't so much about the pornography side. It was more eventually it got to be a freedom of speech thing, and protected speech. It's not necessarily the things you like, it's the things it's the speech and the ideology and some of the beliefs from people that you may not agree with, you may not like. And the big thing was parody. There were so many shows that would not exist today. Saturday Night Live, a lot of these late shows that you see after the news at night. A lot of these talk shows, believe me, they would not exist had Larry not gone to fight for the just for the right to take a public figure and make fun of them, which now you hear every day. But back then, Larry was persecuted for it, and prosecuted, and thrown in jail. Can you just imagine just having a thought and having to go to jail for it? It's absolutely crazy. And I always say the first person through the wall always gets the most bloody, and that was Larry. I did want to mention also, something else is, through the 90s and, into the 2000s, I didn't really see Larry as much. I was, graduated from high school. I was in, different bands. I was traveling, moving a little bit, but I was busy doing my thing. But anytime I did go out to California, I would definitely, seek Larry out, and one way or another we would meet up at his house, or eventually he opened up a store on the retail store on Sunset, and I thoroughly loved that store. I think he purchased that building. Now it was actually I think it was like a Blockbuster Video. He bought the building from them. Of course, totally renovated it, opened it up in '98, and yeah, it was. I'll tell you that store was fucking awesome. Some of the things that went on there, actually Steel Panther played there. Steel Panther actually played an acoustic set there. That was always like I've always wanted to do that. I did have a band, go out and play a couple shows out in Hollywood in 2000, but that was always my thing. I was like, man, I would love to play an acoustic set there, or just play music there. I always thought that would have been totally rad, but Steel Panther beat me to it, and they did a great job. Great memories of the store. Unfortunately, it is no longer there. It was purchased, and but before that was they opened up the store on Hollywood, and I have not been to that store yet. I've been to pretty much all the other stores, but I have not been to that store yet. Yeah, I suck. So I haven't actually been out in Los Angeles since that opened. So in my next trip out there, I'll definitely be going in there. I may not be able to vlog from there, but I will definitely be hitting that up. Do I have any other stories of Larry? He was he loved music. Unfortunately I didn't really get to talk to him about what some of his favorite artists were. Same as some of his favorite bands. Didn't really talk that, but I know he loved music. Speaking of music, here's another story. I actually, when Billy Idol finally got his star on the Walk of Fame out in Hollywood, I did post a thing on YouTube. It wasn't a video, but it was a picture, and had a story on there. So Larry and Althea had, I believe it was a 58 or 57 Cadillac, and supposedly this was once owned by Elvis. White, gold trimmed, beautiful. I wish I could find a picture of it. Maybe I'll find like a replica or something like that, and just basically what the car probably looked like. But yeah, Larry and Althea had a 57, 58 Cadillac, once owned by the King, and Althea thought that Billy Idol was the second coming of Elvis, and she actually wanted to give the car to Billy. So Althea got a hold of Lon Friend and said, "Hey, this is where the car's at. Billy Coyne is in town. Call him up." And so yeah, basically Lon called up Billy Coyne, said, "Hey, we've got this car that Larry and Althea own. We want to give this to Billy while you guys are in town for like a day or two." And unfortunately, the car wouldn't start and had to be towed to a dealership. What happened after that? The window closed. So Billy could not get this car, but yeah, I thought that would have been just killer for Billy Idol to have one of these cars that they owned. There's just a lot of stuff just like that, just crazy stories that you literally can't make up. Some memories that I have of the house that they owned in Bel Air. I remember pretty much every single nook and cranny about that house. I was there a lot, and just it was so big and massive. They had the basement where they had the game room. They had a pool table. They had a big screen TV. This thing was massive. They had a catalog of all these like movies and stuff. Just normal movies. And had the game room, had the bar. Went down the hallway. They had the gym behind. You go back another hallway, and they had a bunch of just stuff. Go out the double doors, and there was the pool. You had like the statues, like the 6 feet statues with they're basically like naked ladies, had water squirting out. That was awesome. Just a thing of trees behind that seemed like about 60 feet tall, obviously for privacy. You had the main floor, which had obviously the massive foyer. Had the living room, which nobody really did anything in, except there's a story that the singer from what's that band, Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo, he was actually out the house one night with Althea, and things got a little crazy. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, nothing bad, but Althea just was typical Althea form in mid 80s. Massive kitchen. Little Larry and I used to go in there, and you had basically all sorts of any food that you can imagine you could eat. I mean, everything was there. They had cooks if you wanted to have a chicken sandwich. Somebody would make this for you. But little Larry and I would take a plate, stick 1 or 2 pieces of cheese on there, stick that in the microwave, and eat the melted cheese. That was it. Of all the things in the fridge, we ate that. Little Larry, please tell me what this was all about, if you even remember that. That was just completely weird. Yeah, just living rooms and stuff. Just massive rooms. Upstairs, that was where all the bedrooms are at. Of course, Larry's, their bedroom was just massive, kind of dark, just very not gothic, but just kind of dark. It's about the best way I can really just describe what the master bedroom was like. All the other bedrooms had like they were color coded. You had like the blue room, you had the green room, which I stayed in them all. You had like it's like the yellow room. Yeah, the blue room was where I slept at a lot. That's where I kept my guitars and stuff. Just a massive house. Again, I played the Frank Zappa was talking about the house. Just crazy. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see anything crazy. But speaking of the basement, kind of reminds me. You had a round octagon card table, and I wish I'd known at the time the types of people that Larry would have. Where you had like the Timothy Learys, the Dennis Hoppers, all sorts of just Frank Zappa, very eclectic. People in walks of life were there, and they would play cards for hours and days, and just crazy times that I wish I'd gotten to see, but I didn't, because basically when my mom and I are out there, they pretty much told all the crazy people, sorry, you have to stay away for a couple months. We got family in, and we'll call you when they leave. So yeah, unfortunately, I never got to see anything, but I do have a lot of good memories to the house. Just Althea. She congratulated me on something that happened. I can't go into details, but I remember getting home, from a club, and I say, Althea, this happened. She was like, oh my God, this is, it's, again, I can't really go into details. I don't really want to go into public about it, but just a lot of good memories. And I remember pretty much any time that we would fly into LAX, we'd always have this stretch limo, pick us up. This thing was like, it seemed like it was just as big as a city block. I mean, it was just massive. It'd always pick us up and take us to the house, and from there I'd meet up with my cousins and stuff. We would just do typical kid stuff. Just play in the pool, go in the hot tub, and just basically just hang out and just, I don't know, just do kid stuff. But it was, when we got older, my cousin Teresa, I'd say, she got her driver's license, and she was, out with her friends and stuff, and that's when we went down to the, to witness the Sunset Strip scene, which it's just speechless, the amount of stuff that went out there. Just masses of people. The clubs would be full, so people would be out on the sidewalks. The sidewalks would be full, so people would be out in the streets. It was just, just craziness. And I am forever grateful that Larry was able to fly me out there so I could see this. A couple intimate stories I can tell you about Larry. After my dad was shot in '82. CPD, basically just, went through my dad's place, took fingerprints, which they even fingerprinted me, which is kind of weird. It was just, it kind of tripped me out. But nothing was really being handled. So Larry stepped in, and Larry always thought the world of my dad. Larry told me one time, this is like, as a matter of fact, this is one of the last times that I saw him. He was like, Justin, your dad was the nicest, kindest, guys that I ever met, and he was, he left you too soon, and apologized that I had to go through that. When he told me that, I broke down and cried for a while, and I told him the family's theory about what happened, and that's going to be a different video that I actually do this summer. But for Larry to step forward, and he actually put out a $1 million reward to see if they could find who shot my dad. Of course, it's now a cold case, and it's I don't think we're ever gonna find that out. Again, one of the last times I saw Larry, I thanked him, for taking me and showing me a completely different world. He could have, taken that money and, just said, I need to go into the business and whatever. But he knew, he knew how much Althea missed family since they moved out there. And it's like, Althea would, she needs, she needs to see family, and it would be good, for the family to see her. So, he would fly us out there, and just, we were treated like kings. I mean, we got away with a lot of stuff. Here, this is something else. Little Larry and I, and even my cousin Teresa, they had an elevator in this house in Bel Air. We would go up and down, just being stupid. And every once in a while, Larry not yell at us, but he would like, hey, stop riding those elevators, you're gonna break them. And so we'd like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, we rode the elevators a lot. Just you could take the stairs, but if you have a house with an elevator, you're gonna ride it, and you're gonna ride it a lot, and we did. So that's another interesting story that I actually just remembered. Yeah, Larry would get on us about riding the elevator too much. He thought we'd break it or something on it. That's what I assumed. As far as the Huster magazine itself, some people ask me, it's like, what was your favorite? Do you have any, special issues that you remember? There are several that I remember for different reasons. For whatever reason, my mom actually kept a lot of these back issues. I think probably Althea had sent them to us. They had these like leather folders, kind of almost like notebooks, and each one held about 4 or 5 issues. And so, teenager, after school, when my mom was still at work, and she didn't come home till late, a lot of my friends would come over, and they'd be going through all these notebooks and looking at all these issues, and it's like just talking about it for hours. Like, yeah, man, this is so cool, and this is what girls look like, and it's just typical kid stuff. There's a couple issues that kind of stick out. There was an issue that had the centerfold. Gotta laugh. The centerfold, the part down there of this poor innocent girl, scratch and sniff. Yeah, Larry had a scratch and sniff centerfold. I couldn't tell you what it smelled like. Did I scratch it? Yes. Did I smell it? Yes. Did it smell like what it smells like? I couldn't tell you. This is going back 30 years. I don't remember, but I do remember that the scratch and sniff issue. There was one issue where it had basically just it showed the girl just from basically her waist area, had a red, white, and blue bikini, and this was in the 70s, and yeah, it was it's kind of gnarly. Basically, very indicative of what you think of as far as that goes when you think 70s. Yeah, it was kind of out of bounds. I gotta trim that stuff up. But yeah, I do remember that. That kind of tripped me out for a little bit. I was like, man, this is really what I have to look forward to. Sorry. So the very last time that I actually saw Larry was several years ago. We actually had, this was the morning after I actually got to go to the office. This was, like I said, several years ago. Got to have breakfast with him. He liked to eat at the Peninsula Hotel. This is in Los Angeles, and got to see family. Got to see Liz. My cousin Teresa was with me. Cousin Sasha was with me. We just had a great time. And here's a couple pictures from that time. And I will never ever forget that night. It was just it was awesome. And the food is great, but it was good seeing Larry. He was, just very good spirits. This was before his health had really started to decline, and he had really, really slowed down in the last couple of years of his life. Just very, not really hands off, but he just slowed down a lot. Unfortunately, the day that he passed, again, 2 years ago today, unfortunately, I was at work. And I was working second shift, which is basically nights. Started at 5, and a couple hours later, got to go on break. Went in the break room. My phone was basically buzzing in my lunchbox. It was going nuts. And I was like, man, what the hell's going on? And I pick it up, and everybody's saying, dude, I'm so sorry. And I was like, unbelievable. I can't believe, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What's going on? And I read the story and said, Larry had passed away. So I had basically had only a few minutes to process this before I had to go back to work. So I go back to work and I'm like, look, my Uncle Larry just passed away. Just for the next 2 hours, just keep an eye on me because I'm in shock. And everybody was like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, just keep an eye on me. So I managed to get through those 2 hours. So I got through those 2 hours. Basically, spent my very short lunch break just basically trying to figure out exactly what happened, where was he at. Try to get a hold of people. Unfortunately, everybody was just very nobody could get to me right away. So I didn't really have that many answers other than he passed away from heart failure, and went back to work. And I, before I actually started, I gave myself a couple minutes just to myself, just to kind of just process it. Broke down, and it took me about a half an hour before I was even able to function, just do normal things like talk. So they basically took me away for the rest of the night. I did work, but I was pretty much by myself. And I was a wreck. Got home and just had to process it. But it took a while. But again, he was 78 years old. He's lived an incredible life. Again, the first people through the wall get the most bloody, and he did. Just a great man. Again, I'm not going to make this sad. I'm not going to make this sad. Just I love Uncle Larry to death. Just an incredible loss for basically a Constitution fundamentalist that stood by what he believed in and was willing to go to jail for it. And you have to admire that, even if you don't like what he thinks. And believe me, there's a lot of people that didn't like him. But you have to admire the fight that he had and his determination, his grit, and a better word, and I can't think of a better word. He was the ultimate hustler. Larry, miss you. I'm going to end this by having this is going back in time. This is basically what the Hustler store and the company released shortly after Larry passed. So I'm going to leave you basically with these notices. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, if you have, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. That way you're notified for sure anytime I upload any new videos for you guys, hard rock and heavy metal fans. That's usually what I talk about, but this is something completely different. And by the way, Larry loved Motley Crue. He had him in several episodes or issues of RIP. Even had him in Hustler magazine. He was even in one of their videos for Afraid, which I showed. But just there'll never be another one like him. So love you, Uncle Larry. I miss you. Whole family misses you. Hope you and Althea are catching up. So until next time, you guys be good. Stay rad. Keep it heavy. Love you guys. See you guys next time.